So the AI bubble is crashing today, and the question is, how bad is this crash going to get? That's the subject of today's video, and look at our headlines. Market rout intensifies, sweeping up everything from tech to crypto to gold, right? So first we're talking about AI crash, AI bubbles. Now we're talking about everything, tech, crypto, gold. This is also another headline. Dow closes down more than 550 points, dragged down by NVIDIA and tech shares. And NVIDIA is going to report their earnings, and we're going to get some numbers from them. And basically we'll see, hey, are you still making money? Are you projecting to make yet more money next year, and at what rate? The question is, as you look at this, a lot of things are selling off in the red, is are all of these leverage bets that people are making, basically borrowing a whole bunch of money to buy NVIDIA chips to build data centers, is that bet paying off? And as I told you guys before in the channel, we talked about it, where your OpenAI, your Anthropic, these kind of big AI companies, they're not profitable. And they may not be profitable for like 5 or 6 years, or may not ever be profitable. Who knows? I mean, this is what the bet is, because I can't tell you what's going to happen 5 years from now. But I can tell you, like, based on today's numbers, we're clearly in a bubble, and it's obvious to see, because even if this AI data center stuff works, what's the ultimate goal there is to replace all of you, the worker, and how's that going to turn out in a consumer-based economy when no one has jobs? It's not going to turn out well, I'm telling you. And then when you look at what our politics is up to, it basically boils down to an incompetent president with a whole bunch of cronies and basically money laundering. I'll just be frank. Look at what he says. This is from Trump. He's talking about POTUS, right? That's Trump. Meets with the FIFA task force. Okay, here's a quote. The World Cup will also be an incredibly significant economic opportunity for countless American workers and businesses. It's expected to drive more than $30 billion. If you want to watch him read on and on and on and on, you can. But here's a question I pose to you is, what if nobody shows up to the FIFA? What if people are like, you know what? I'm not coming. It's not safe. I'm not going to go. And what do you think these numbers are real? This 30 billion? I mean, who knows? And this is what the same with the AI bets is people borrow a whole bunch of money to build data centers in hopes that everyone's going to subscribe to your AI, company or your AI services. This is a similar kind of thing. Like, hey, let's borrow a bunch of money. Let's build all this new facilities or whatever we're building for the FIFA or, all this new investment. And then what if that doesn't pay off, right? What if I hired a whole bunch of people and no one comes, and then what do? Do I just not pay my people? Well, if you're Trump, yes, that's what you do. And also when Trump puts out these kind of numbers regarding FIFA, I'll just say this, FIFA has a long history of money laundering, and I wouldn't be shocked if some of this supposed money is going to go right into Trump's pocket. And then you have this also crazy news. This is actually coming from Switzerland, which you don't talk about that often on the channel, but this is what it was. Swiss didn't make a deal with the devil, U.S. tariffs minister says. And so basically they're referring to the USA, and Trump as being the devil. And they're saying, oh, we didn't make a deal. We didn't surrender. I'll read it. You'll see. It says, Switzerland did not make a deal with the devil by agreeing a new tariff framework with the United States. That's coming from the economy minister, Guy Parmelin, said on Saturday, rejecting criticism that amounted to a surrender to Donald Trump's trade war. And that was the quote. We haven't sold our soul to the devil. They're talking about whether or not they made a deal with the USA. So I guess USA is officially the devil, according to the Switzerland finance minister. And then you got this, which is kind of interesting because it is related to Switzerland. It says UBS chair talked to Scott Bessent about moving bank to the US. And I told you guys this before about the whole money laundering stuff. I'll just say this, UBS is always caught in some sort of money laundering scandal kind of thing. So is FIFA. So it's not shocking to me that Trump's like, hey, you know what? I like money laundering. I'm going to hang out with UBS. I'm going to hang out with FIFA. And in fact, I'm going to send my boy, Scott Bessent, to get some sort of deal to bring UBS to the USA. And that's literally what we're talking about. And, come to the USA where we're going to lower regulations and you can trade all your cryptos and your tokens and do all your laundering all in one-stop shop, one-stop banking. Come here. That's literally what they're talking about. So this was news to me, and there's been other news also, which is actually just pretty frank concerning. There's a lot of concerning news I shall go through, but Bessent's been taking a lot of meetings with banks and such, and there's real worries about liquidity, and this also involves the Fed. So I'll just say this. I'm really concerned about how the direction of everything's going, because I think there's too much borrowing, too much laundering, and just not enough transparency. And you're giving the keys of the kingdom to someone like Trump, who has a history of basically driving the kingdom off a cliff. That's the best way to describe it. I'll read a little bit of this if you guys want to hear a description. It says here, the administration has signaled its intent to loosen rules governing banks. Wow, it's exactly what I want. Loosen rules governing banks, with the U.S. Treasury Secretary, so that would be Bessent, using the growth of private credit as an example that lenders have been, quote, too tightly constrained, right? They want to get the borrowing going again. Let's keep borrowing, guys. He has also argued in favor of minimizing capital and liquidity rules in a bid to free up more space for lending, meaning that let's just keep the borrowing going. Let's lend out tons of money. You don't have to keep any cash in the bank. It doesn't matter. It's all, paper anyway. And this is not a good thing. Okay, guys, it's not a good thing. You don't want to like loosen up bank loans and stuff like that, or loosen up regulations. If you lived through the great financial crisis, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's what these people want to do. They want to drive us off a cliff with this stuff. Also says here, it says the Trump administration's push to relax bank rules has sparked concern among European authorities that U.S. deregulation, right, taking away regulation, taking away rules, will give American lenders an advantage over transatlantic rivals and create risks for the stability of the global financial system. Of course it will. And it's kind of a crazy thing, because then I guess theoretically, if you want to keep laundering in Europe or wherever, you're like, well, if the USA is removing banking laws, then we got to do it too. And like, you know what? Let's have a race to the bottom to see who can remove the most banking regulations. And I'm telling you guys, it's not going to turn out well. And then if you call out Trump on his, tomfoolery, however you want to call it, then he gets angry and yells. And this is literally what Trump was saying today in the White House. I was shouting at people because they were stupid about something having to do with trade and a country I straightened it out. But I blew my stack at these people. They were stupid. I don't know. And if you want to watch the clips of Trump today, basically it looked like he was losing his voice. And, I'll say this. He's probably screaming a combination of Epstein stuff, a combination of, what's going on with the market crashes or whatever. But that's what we're talking about. And then one of Trump's possible picks for the Fed chair. So we don't know who it's going to be, but Fed Waller, then he's coming out and saying, hey, we should cut rates. Let's keep the borrowing going. This whole thing, the whole American system is all about borrowing. And if you stop borrowing and if you stop paying back your loans, and everything falls apart. But, there comes a point to where like you can only borrow so much and you just become underwater and overwhelmed. And all of the bets that you made on the future of your data centers or whatever just doesn't pay off. I guess theoretically you could cut and print more money. I guess so. But how long is that going to go? This is what it says. So this is talking about Waller now. So the front runners before to be the Fed chair were either Bessent, right, who's in Treasury, Hassett, who's one of Trump's economic advisor people, or Waller. I think these are the top three. Maybe Waller now. I'll just say this. I don't really like any of these people, but at least Waller is a little bit better than the other two, although he's trying to get into Trump camp. So this is what it says, though. A top federal official has called for December interest rate cut. So again, let's cut rates, let's keep the borrowing going. Highlighting divisions among policymakers over whether to prioritize fighting inflation over supporting a weakening jobs market. Okay? So basically, if you cut too much, you're going to have runaway inflation. They're going to argue if you don't cut, then you're going to have too much unemployment. So that's the balance that we're making. And I think either way, it doesn't look good for jobs, though, is the problem, right? Just everything's slowing and we're in a massive bubble. And even if you do cut rates, you're investing in data centers to replace workers. And I keep having to remind people that, because the Trumpers, they always act like we're building all these factories, but then you dig into the details and it's all this AI stuff. Then it says, Christopher Waller, a Fed governor who has emerged as the leading internal candidate to replace Jay Powell, said on Monday in London that, quote, his reading of the data led him to support a cut at the central bank, right? And I guess that's December 10th as a matter of risk management. And the problem is, though, is that when he's, quote, reading the data, we don't even have full government data yet. I think we might get partial data this week is what they said, but who knows what we're going to get. You also got this. This is from the White House. This is what they're tweeting out today. They're all about cutting rules and cutting regulations. So literally from them. It says, from extending tax cuts to slashing red tape through deregulation, small business owners are thanking President Trump for fighting for them and ushering a true, quote, golden age for the American small business. That's what they say. When you take a look, though, at the news, I'm just showing you what it is. Now our biggest companies are into borrowing money for AI. This is from Amazon today. This is today. Amazon joins big tech bond rush for 12 billion debt sale. Why do you need all this money? Here, e-commerce giant's first U.S. bond in 3 years comes as it cranks up spending on artificial intelligence infrastructure. Data centers, like every day it's data center this, data center that, who's borrowing where, who's borrowing from who, and how much do you need? And then they give you all these great projections of how much money they're going to make. It's so ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. And I know sometimes there's kids out there that say, "Oh, Chris, you're so dumb. AI and data is going to be everything, and the robots are going to do all the work, and we're going to just lay on our couches all day, and we're all going to be rich, right?" That's the bet. That seriously is the bet. It's very different than the internet, guys. The internet wasn't like inherently designed to replace you, the worker. Okay. And also with the dot-com boom, I'll give you some examples of it's just a reality. And just talking about Amazon, yes, it did change, and yes, it was revolutionary, but people did lose out. I mean, if you drive around USA, there's a lot of retail stores that just don't exist anymore. If you guys remember Radio Shack, if you guys remember, say like a Blockbuster, you guys remember Kmart, any number of stores that are gone due to the internet, right? And is that something that was, what should I say it, like, could you have stopped it? Can you stop the growth of the internet? No, not necessarily. I mean, the internet, we all use it today. I agree. I think the AI thing is different though, because what we're looking at is fundamentally you want to replace people. That's what it is. So I would argue that the internet is different than AI, because the internet, at least we're talking about people still communicating with people. But with AI, we're like removing people from the equation, and we're a consumer-based economy. And then, in the USA. So I just have real concerns about this. And then you read the numbers, and I'll read it. It says, Amazon is seeking to raise $12 billion in its first U.S. bond sale in 3 years, becoming the latest big tech group to turn to debt markets to fund a spending spree on artificial intelligence infrastructure. It's all right here. And I know a lot of people ignore these kind of news. They ignore the money. But what if these bets don't pay off for Amazon, right? And as Facebook is doing this stuff, and like all the big companies are. Also says the Seattle-based e-commerce and cloud computing giant launched the bond sale Monday and is targeting $12 billion across about 6 investment-grade bonds, according to a person close to the deal. Here's more, and they're all in on it. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and Morgan Stanley are managing the sale, according to regulatory filings, right? Everyone's in on this stuff. Amazon said, quote, like all companies, we regularly evaluate our operating plan and make financing decisions, like entering into a credit agreement or issuing bonds accordingly. The proceeds from this issuance will be used to support business infrastructures, fund capital expenditures, and repay upcoming debt maturities. So we're juggling money here. We're borrowing yet more to keep the borrowing going. That's what it boils down to. And what it turns out also, which is really interesting if you want to talk more technical stuff, I guess people are buying up credit default swaps now at the moment. And long story short is I can buy insurance if I don't think a company's going to pay back its debt. It's kind of like, think of it this way. I have a car and the bank thinks there's a certain percentage, risk that I'll crash my car, and then the insurance company will then, pay to fix your car, something like that. And the more risk that you have that you're going to crash your car, be it you have a sports car or you're, a young dude, because, young dudes pay higher insurance than older dudes or older women. You guys know this. Then your insurance premiums are higher. And so we're seeing that basically if you want to insure the debt on these risky bets, be it from, Facebook, Amazon, Oracle, or whatever, that the cost of that stuff is going up. And talking about credit default swaps, it hasn't been reported in news. I'm going to make this clear. This has not been reported in news. But I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Burry made some sort of credit default swap, bet, because he actually is returned all the money to his fund investors that was signed asset management that was announced earlier. And we do know he took a bunch of puts against NVIDIA and Palantir. Like I said, nothing's been mentioned about credit default swaps, but it was mentioning this as holders more interested in these things. Again, this is insurance basically, and you're betting that people are going to bust on their borrowing. So I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Burry made that bet. I don't know if he did, but I just wouldn't be shocked. This is also, and it's all related, because when you go through this stuff, it's like how ridiculous this stuff is. You realize, yep, we're in a massive bubble. Let me read this for you. It says, Trump family and Saudi partner unveiled tokenized Maldives resort. Okay, so part of this money laundering thing, and I guess now we're meeting with Saudi, is they're saying basically, hey, I will sell you a bunch of F-35 jets, and then you get in my real estate business with me. Seriously, this is what it is. Trump says U.S. intends to sell F-35 jet fighters to Saudi Arabia. and this is also connected to the tokenization of this hotel thing. I think it's like 80 units. I think it's a way for them to, well, one, it's money laundering, but it's a way for them to like sell ownership in this thing to people who are, just to do it through blockchain, crypto, tokenized assets. It's the best way to describe it. I'll read it to you. If you guys don't understand this stuff, it gets convoluted, but I mean, the basic idea is you can do these transactions faster. And as Eric Trump will say, I can send and receive $500 million late on a Friday drinking wine with my wife. And that was really a quote from him. It's so ludicrous. So this is the kind of stuff that they're talking about. And if you read it, you'll see what I'm saying. It says, Donald Trump's family business and its Saudi Arabian partner are to build a luxury Maldives resort that uses blockchain technology to attract investment, and plans unveiled on the eve of the visit to Washington by the kingdom's de facto ruler. Okay. And this kind of stuff, it won't be the headline news. I understand there's lots of stuff to talk about, but this is the real money here. This is how they're doing their laundering and their bribes, right? We're going to build resorts together, and we're going to be able to sell, I guess you want to call it, assets in this thing through blockchain technology. Yes, it's as dumb as it sounds, but this is what they're doing. The Trump Organization and London-listed DAR Global on Monday announced plans for the 80-villa hospitality development, a short boat ride from the Maldives capital, Mali, and the latest venture to launch by two companies. We'll read more here. The Maldives announcement also comes a day before the Saudi Arabian's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, the kingdom's heir apparent, is set to meet the U.S. president in Washington. The visit, which will be the Prince's Mohammed's first in 7 years, is expected to focus on defense, nuclear cooperation, and Saudi investments. They're going to talk about military capabilities, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll just start talking about crypto and how are we going to get that money to you. For real. And I'm going through the details of stuff because, again, a lot of people ignore these things, but as I always say, follow the money. DAR Global and the Trump Organization, so keep these names in mind, are planning to use the technology that underpins cryptocurrency in their newest development, talking about the Maldives resort, 80-unit place or whatever. Trump and members of his family have been enthusiastic adopters of crypto. Of course they have, because they want to sell millions of dollars in the middle of the night, doing whatever they're doing. With the president and his wife selling meme coins, his son's involvement in stable coins, and a Bitcoin treasury business. Isn't this stuff so stupid? It's like open corruption. And that's like I said, it's frustrating for me because this is not the main news, but it's not in the main news because everyone's focused on Epstein this, Epstein that. But that stuff's all connected as well. You just got this group of people at the top who think of everyone else as a bunch of idiots, and they get you all fighting with each other while they basically are doing open corruption right here. And I'm reading it to you right now just so you can understand it. The Trump family crypto empire made more than $1 billion in profits before tax over the past year, a Financial Times investigation published last month found. Okay, great. And then you go into they're all over the place. The Trump Organization and DAR Global began projects. So it was the Middle East, Trump Towers in Jeddah to Dubai, luxury hotel and golf courses, Qatar, Oman, etc. And then it says, I guess, the Maldives initiative is the first time the pair have opened a path for outside investors to participate via so-called tokenization. So it's like digitalization of, ownership and more money laundering, more bribes, etc. This is the way you're going to do it. And there'll be very little regulation on this stuff, right? This would be a use blockchain to break up an asset into pieces that can then be bought and sold digitally, right? It's instead of calling it coin, you're just calling it tokens. Let's read some more. It says, the company said this was the first time a luxury hospitality project has been tokenized, a claim the Financial Times has not been able to verify. So that I don't know if that's true, and the Financial Times doesn't know either, but that's what they're claiming, right? So now we can bet on the value of Maldives resorts and of the Trump Organization. That's basically what it is. Eric Trump, a Trump Organization executive vice president, said the company was, quote, delighted to bring the Trump brand to the Maldives in a collaboration with DAR Global. He predicted its financial model would, quote, set a new benchmark for innovation in real estate investment through tokenization. The company's statement did not clarify how the tokenization would work. Basically, it's going to be a lot of, leverage, so borrowing. It's going to be a lot of laundering. Money's going to come from all over the place, right? Trump and his family say, oh, but we don't make any money for the presidency. We don't do anything illegal, but then they brag about like how they are doing all these things illegal. It's frankly ridiculous, but this is what it is, and this is the world that we're in. So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this stuff. Please be careful out there, and I'll catch you on the next video.